The Age of Sigmar is more than just the name of an awesome miniatures game. It is also the time in which the game is set. The Third Age and the current history of the mortal realms, the stories forged and told of current events, all take place within its eras. But, being the Third Age, there are obviously stories to be told about that which came before. The ages of the mortal realms, and the events that brought about the transitions between them, are our focus for today. The old world of Warhammer Fantasy, the world that was, is no more. The evil forces of chaos had won, and the world was destroyed, all that remaining of it being the metallic core spiralling through the cosmos. To this core, Sigmar clung, the God King holding on with desperation as the world's remains shone brightly with the glow of Sigmarite. Rescued by the great Drake Drakathion, Sigmar was shown the secret ways to the mortal realms, where life was beginning again without the presence of chaos. This bonded Sigmar and Drakathion together in a strong friendship, and so began the Age of Myth. A set of 8 realities, each formed from the crystallized energies of his homeworld, the mortal realms were now Sigmar's new home. Setting out on voyages of discovery, he found tribes of savage humans, and taught them the ways of civilization. Helping them clear the predators from their lands, they built cities together and learnt writing and forging from Sigmar. In time, these groups came to know him as a divine saviour, Sigmar carrying the title of God King once more. As he travelled through the realms, Sigmar found remnants of those he knew from his old world, Drakathion aiding him in bringing power and life back to those that would become the gods of the mortal realms. Through friendship, bargains, and, in the case of Gorka Morka, a right good beatdown, the gods came together to form a unified pantheon. Even Malekith, now known as Malerion, and the Grand Sorcerer Nagash joined this union, each content to rule and protect over their realms of shadow and death respectively. The cities of the realms grew tall, and the people who lived within them were as numerous as the stars. Connected through the realm gates, portals that allowed for travel between the realms of existence, they traded and learned from one another, the gods passing on their knowledge of smithing, nurturing, and magics down to their people. Each realm was anointed a divine protector, and the mortal realms flourished under the watchful eyes of the Pantheon. As their realms grew and times passed, cracks began to form within the Pantheon, with various conflicting desires and motives pushing them in opposite directions. But there was one other threat to their unity also, as another Pantheon had taken notice of the mortal realms, now vibrant with life. They acted slow at first, the whispers of the Chaos Gods falling gently onto fresh ears, offering the inhabitants of the mortal realms power and glory. Insidious was the touch of chaos, and their presence grew in the shadows of Sigmar's light, for too long going unnoticed by the Pantheon of Order. The first divide to appear within the Pantheon was with the elven god's containment of the Chaos God Slaanesh. Foregoing their duties, Teclis, Tyrion, Malerion and Marathi found the Chaos God lazy and fat from gorging itself on the elven souls of the world that was. In this state of vulnerability, the elves chained the Chaos God with their magics, binding it and trapping it in a space between the realms of light and shadow. There, they performed a long and painstaking ritual, drawing out elven souls from the Dark God and purifying them of the taint of chaos. These souls drawn out were then divided among the elven gods there, to be remade and reborn in their image. The origins of the Lumineth Realm Lords, the Ideneth Deepkin and the Daughters of Cain all stem from these reclaimed elven souls. Whilst the elves fought to contain and imprison Slaanesh, the remaining gods of the Pantheon fought the spread of the corruption of chaos. The dwarven god Grimnir had battled the god beast of Volcatrix, mother of salamanders, the fight ending with both being torn apart. Gorka Morka had been driven deep into battle by his warrior spirit, and Nagash had begun to see a different path that involved him standing above all others. The Pantheon was failing, a and the forces of chaos had arrived. This shift in power dynamics within the mortal realms marked the end of this golden age of growth. Now was the time in which much of this culture would be lost and forgotten, crushed beneath blade and boot. This was the Age of Chaos. The seeds of corruption planted through the Age of Myth now blossomed, with cults to the dark gods appearing all over the mortal realms, and the demonic legions of chaos stepping through these new lands to conquer. As the gods were either destroyed, distracted, or forced into exile, Nagash and Sigmar stood against the tides of chaos. Both leading strong forces, they could not hold back the forces of chaos alone. Seeing opportunity to drive a wedge between these last allies, Archaon the Everchosen led a force into the realms of death. Marching through the Gate of Bones into Shaiish, he had commanded many of his warriors to fight each other to the death, drowning themselves in lakes of blood. This influx of Chaos warriors into the domain of death meant that a large portion of his forces travelled to the depths of Nagash's underworld, while he and his elite forces took to the fight from throughout the Outlands, his gaunt summoners bringing forth waves of demons to assist them. Whilst Nagash was able to handle and fight back most of these forces, he did so alone. His supposed ally, Sigmar, was nowhere to be seen. Such was the faults of the living, supposed Nagash, that they might throw you to the dogs to save their own lives for a while longer. Only Nagash and his undead forces understood the truth of life, that it was fleeting, and that all eventually died. All became one with death. All became one with Nagash. Only by the time that his forces had pushed back the bulk of the Chaos hordes to the 8 points did Sigmar's armies appear to assist in the fight, having been delayed fighting Chaos in other realms. Nagash's rage had burned slowly but with intense heat. Here, at the place where all 8 realms coincide, did Nagash attempt his new plan for defeating Chaos. No longer could he trust the words of the living. All must die and be reborn in his legions of loyal servants. He turned his forces on those of Sigmar, killing his mortal allies to then raise them as forces for his own armies. As you can imagine, Sigmar raged at this outright betrayal. He took to the battle in his warrior form, abandoning the fight at the 8 points to cut his way through Shaiish, searching for retribution against the Necromancer Lord. As he searched for a revenge that would not come, however, the battle for the 8 points was lost. His forces no longer commanded, and the 2 allied forces fighting against each other instead of those of Chaos. Sigmar attempted to return to the battle to try and save the 8 points from falling to Archaon, but his distraction had cost them dearly, as it had done Nagash. As Sigmar and his forces retreated to recover and plan, Shaiish had been weakened greatly by first Chaos and then an angered Sigmar. When the forces of Chaos returned to reclaim the Realm of Death, they met with very little resistance as they marched to Nagash. The Everchosen and the Necromancer Lord fought, and although they both matched each other well in combat, Archaon's blade, the Slayer of Kings, cut Nagash down, seemingly killing the God of Death. The final straw that broke the Pantheon's back occurred when Sigmar took a final and desperate fight to Archaon and the forces of Chaos. Taking to the field of battle, Sigmar led his remaining forces headlong into death and glory. They fought for the freedom of the realms, and this brought them strength. Sigmar himself fought like a force of nature. Armed with his hammer Galmaraz, he was unstoppable, each swing landing with meteoric force, sweeping foes aside and banishing demons back to the realms of chaos. Fighting his way through greater demons of each of the Chaos Gods, he eventually found himself before Archaon. Knowing the strength of the Champion of Chaos's blade, he was aware that he was in real danger should he be struck by its steel. With the fury and rage of a god denied his realms of peace, Sigmar pulled back his arm and threw the hammer at the Everchosen, its power crackling across the air as it charged to destroy this servant of chaos. But then, it did the strangest thing, passing through him and revealing the illusionary form that Sigmar had actually aimed his mighty blow towards. All he could do was watch as the hammer passed through the illusion and into the rift in reality behind it, passing through the various realms, passing into the realm of chaos and smashing its way through various realms before landing far beyond Sigmar's sight. To the sound of Archaon's laughter, the God King retreated to Azir. Here he hid himself, barricading himself away with the dwarven god Grungi to work on their new project, abandoning those beyond his impregnable fortress to the whims of chaos. An immortal truth seemed to fall upon the mortal realms. Chaos had come and had claimed a victory that could not be undone. During the age of chaos that would reign for many years to follow, the members of the Pantheon hid away, securing their small domains and awaiting a time to strike. Nagash was even resurrected and set in motion his own plans for defeating the Chaos Invaders. For the majority of the mortal realms, however, the living became slaves to the darkness that had taken over their lives, losing hope for any form of salvation. The end of the Age of Chaos occurred with the arrival of Sigmar's new warriors to the mortal realms. Arriving with a boom, the forces of the Stormcast Eternals marked a new age for the realms, and began their crusade to restore order for its people. The gods were found and rescued, their forces bolstering this new alliance, and life began to push back against the forces of chaos. Nagash remained a force unto his own, however, and the Uruk tribes of Gorkamorka had never even stopped fighting. But over time, a pantheon of sorts was rebuilt. Like a shattered mirror, Sigmar could not repair it to its former glory, but he could attempt to make something of beauty from the shards that remained. This new age of hope and budding prosperity would become known as the Age of Sigmar, and I like to imagine that this came about from Sigmar himself. Driven by his anger at chaos and the need for order in his once great lands, he proclaimed that these realms belong to chaos no longer, and if that someone should need to claim these lands in their stead, that he would do so in the name of order. As you can imagine, there are plenty of stories to be told about the events that have taken place during the Age of Sigmar, from the quest of Galmaraz to the Realmgate Wars, the Necrocrake, and the Era of the Beast. All of these will come in due time, as we explore the major events that have shaped the mortal realms up to this point. If you've enjoyed the video and don't want to miss any future stories from the mortal realms, consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It really helps us to continue what we're doing. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.